The term omnipotence has been defined by various reputable dictionaries. According to the Oxford Dictionary, omnipotence refers to total power, or the ability to do anything. Merriam-Webster defines it as the quality or state of being omnipotent, or an agency or force of unlimited power. Similarly, the Cambridge Dictionary defines omnipotence as unlimited power and the ability to do anything. From these definitions, it becomes evident that omnipotence refers to the power of being all-powerful and the capability to perform any task, regardless of its difficulty. The concept of omnipotence has been discussed in various branches of human studies, including theology, philosophy, psychology, literature and arts, and physics, among others. However, for the purposes of this video, the primary focus will be on exploring the concept of omnipotence within the fields of theology and philosophy. Theology examines the nature of God and divine attributes, with omnipotence being a central concept in understanding the extent of God's power, and philosophy, on the other hand, delves into the logical and philosophical implications of omnipotence, including the paradoxes and challenges it presents. So, now that I have rambled that much, let's get to the serious part of the video. So, does omnipotence actually break the Turing system? The answer to this is that it depends on how you perceive it. If we go by common sense, then the answer is pretty much clear, that an entity or being holding the capability of doing literally any and everything is simply unscalable. There is nothing to debate here. The only thing which can be debated about is if you bring out the point that omnipotence cannot exist inside a fictional verse or story, as it being contained inside one would invariably mean that it is not capable of doing everything as a true omnipotent being should be capable of. In simple terms, the claim basically states that fictional omnipotence cannot exist, which as always is completely due to the perspective that has been used to view this topic. If we consider this logic, then power scaling simply cannot be done, as everything in a fictional verse or story is nothing in front of real world, or to be more specific. All these fictional characters, theories, and stories do not exist in the real world. They are ideas penned down into artworks which lack real existence. They are mere ideas or concepts with no real world existence. Therefore, if we were to scale these characters, then none would make it even to tier 11, as we are considering the real world by using the term fictional. By using the term fictional, we are suggesting that a world exists, which is real and therefore in comparison to that world, this world would always be a non-existent existence. When we are talking about scaling fictional characters, we say a certain character is building level or galaxy level or universal level, based on the feats displayed by them in a certain story or book. We know that these characters have not destroyed real buildings, galaxies, or universes, but we still scale them to a certain tier by considering this story or book's narrative as a separate unique existence of its own, apart from the real world, instead of considering it as a mere idea inside of a world. So, in simple terms, we consider these stories as separate realities, instead of considering them as fictional and not as a part of the real world. There was some terminology for this separation, which I forgot that term, but the idea is what I said just now. So by this logic, omnipotence does in fact exist, as we are considering these fictional stories as complete separate realities instead of just fictional books which are part of a real world. So yeah, we were at the point that, in terms of common sense, surely a state as great as omnipotence would destroy Power's scaling Turing system with ease. But we in the power scaling department do not use common sense. We use our flawed brain-dead logic. So, by this logic, does omnipotence destroy Turing system? Yes, it does. And the reason is simple. Keeping aside a certain factor, even if we consider omnipotence in a power scaling point of view, it would break the Turing system, or at least reach boundless category, as the definition of omnipotence automatically books its ticket to the penthouse of this building, which is the Turing system. As according to the definition, omnipotence basically lends a being power to do anything, meaning a being proven to be omnipotent would literally be capable of creating a cosmology as high as it wants. It can do feats as strong as it wants. Its stats are completely as per its wants, as basically every power is in its hands, allowing it to easily access the top floors of the Turing system, or even breaking the Turing system based on interpretations. A being with omnipotence has the access to any scale it wishes to be at. Just because a book doesn't show a cosmology of a certain length wouldn't mean anything, as an omnipotent could, whenever they want, and however they want, extend or enlarge the cosmology by its choice, as there is no limit to what they can do. They are simply all-powerful. But even at this level, we have two interpretations which could sort of create more debates, which is logical omnipotence and illogical omnipotence. According to logical omnipotency, Logical omnipotence refers to the concept of unlimited power or ability within the framework of logical consistency. It suggests that an entity or being with logical omnipotence can do anything that is logically possible or consistent with the principles of logic. Whereas according to illogical omnipotency, illogical omnipotence would refer to a being or entity that has unlimited power, but operates in a manner that is inconsistent with logic or rationality. This would suggest that this being could perform actions that are logically contradictory or violate the principles of reason. Therefore, in terms of power scaling, a being with illogical omnipotence would get a higher ranking than its counterpart due to the obvious reason that it covers even more than the things which is covered in logical omnipotence. But this can be debatable due to many reasons, but we are not going to talk about it here. But what we are going to talk about is, if so, then why don't we scale characters with statement pointing out omnipotence to such lengths? The answer to this is quite simple. True omnipotence cannot be proven by any means in a verse, as it is an impossible task. The idea behind this is similar to counting from 1 to infinity, which is an unending and impossible task. To prove a character omnipotent, you would have to literally state everything, and by everything I mean every literal fucking thing. Even if you were to write for an eternity, you still won't be able to get even an ounce close to prove the being to be an omnipotent. And therefore every being which claims to be limitless, all-powerful being, falls under the factor that I previously said, which was kept aside for the time being, which is our favorite fallacy, the no-limit fallacy. So in a way, true omnipotence, in fact, cannot exist inside fiction due to the fact that it is impossible to prove its existence inside a fictional verse or book, and any attempts of trying to prove it through vague terms will invariably fall under the no-limits fallacy.